What's up, YouTube? Appalachian ADV Rider here. It's been a while since I've done a video. So, had some things going on in my life. And my mom passed away and I went through a divorce. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going on related to that. So, took a little bit of a break. But I got this other knife. I saw this knife here and I said, you know what? I'm going to buy it and I'm going to review it. So, this will be a first impressions. And let's just get right to this. So what could it be? Well, you can tell by the title that it's another Hinderer. My favorite Hinderer so far is the Eclipse. So I don't have every single model out there, but I do have, this is my third Eclipse. And I just prefer the ergonomics on this thing. And this particular one is a exclusive to one of these distributors. I'm not going to mention the name. There's no free advertising here. I'm not getting free knives, so no free advertising. But here we go. Let's check this out. And the reason why I ordered this one is because, let me reach out over here, is because I purchased this scale a while ago, and I didn't like the way it looked on one of my knives. I was thinking this was the battle bronze, but it wasn't. It was the stonewashed bronze, and it didn't look good on the knife that I have. So I figured, you know what, I got to buy a knife that matches this scale. So this scale will be going on this knife, and that'll be another video. So here we are. So it's got this, I guess, natural G10 finish, which I always thought looked pretty good. Let's flip it for the first time. Oof, there we go. So it is a Bowie, it's a Bowie style knife. Oh, and that feels pretty sharp. All right, so what do I think about this thing? Well, tell you what, I love the ergonomics on the Eclipse. I think Hinderer is like one of my favorite designers. So my favorite designer, if you've been following his channel, is Les George. Without any kind of qualms, I can say Les George is the man. But Hinderer is my second favorite, if I had to pick a second favorite. So what do I like about the Eclipse over the XM18? Well, let's just do a comparison first. So here's an XM18. Now this is a fatty blade, and also it has a titanium scale, which this will have one when I'm done with this video. So you can see they're the same size. But one of the differences is this landing here. There's jimping up on top, which, you know, if you listen to a lot of reviewers, there's complaints about how rough this is. And when you flip the flipper, you land on this area here. Now, I don't, you know, I mean, certainly is rougher and you can feel it, but I mean, I don't really feel that's a huge issue for me. But what I don't like about the XM18 is the flipper has got like a point to it. Like right here, it's kind of pointy. When you flip it, you can definitely feel it poking the middle of your finger. Where with this Eclipse, it's not as rounded. So this has kind of like a rounding shape to it and a point. And this one is relatively flat. So it's just much smoother. And this landing here is real smooth, and it's lower. You can see it dips down. And that's just a real comfortable spot for your fingers to land. And then with this Bowie design, you can put your finger up here too. So there's a nice curvature. And that feels real comfortable with it. Take a look at this tip. So this tip is I wouldn't say it's real thin, but it does, the very tip of it does get kind of thin. So there are other designs to this, other blade designs that have a better tip. Now this would not be one of them. I think it's very similar to this Wharncliffe tip. Now this is a fatty, so this is even thicker than your normal Wharncliffe. Let's compare that to another blade design. I don't know what this is called, but this is an Eclipse also. I have a Hinderer scale on it. But this tip here is very robust. See how thick that one is compared to this? Now, this is not bad, but I'd take this all day long over this one. What else? We've got, I'm going to call that a spear point. I'm not really sure if that's what it's really called, but that tip design is also pretty robust. So this one gets thin, and it stays thin for a longer distance. Where the slope of this angle here is very steep, so it gets thin, but it's only at the very tip of it that it gets, the thinnest. So this is more gradually gets thinner, and this one gets very thin abruptly. What else? Here's the other Eclipse that I have in Wharncliffe, but this is not the fatty. This is a fatty. This is not the fatty. And that tip is real thin. So this is a great, EDC knife, a great slicing knife. Cuts really well, but I wouldn't really consider this a hard use. I would be very careful about digging that tip into anything. But it's a great blade design depending upon what you're doing. Box cutting and whatnot. This is a fantastic design. And lastly, I have the XM18 in a slicer. Slicer blade. And you know what? That feels about as thin as this one does. So this is not bad. Definitely not bad. And like I said, the reason why I bought this is I had this $200, and that's what these things cost. I had this $200 scale that I purchased, and I didn't put it on the knife, so I just had it laying around. So I said, you know what? I love this Eclipse so much, and I like this Bowie design, the blade, and so I'm just going to order it with the same color in the back. So these are both stonewashed bronze. So I think, this is going to look pretty good. I'm usually not like a gold, a fan of the gold color, but anyway. All right, so what else is the difference between an Eclipse and an XM18? Well, one of the other differences is, and you know what, I'm gonna put this one in because this is the fatty, and we'll bring this one out. So a little bit fairer comparison. The inside of the scale, where the lock bar opens, it's got texture on the XM18, and this does not. Is that an issue? I don't see that as an issue, but I just want to call it out. I actually prefer the smoothness of the XM18, excuse me, of the Eclipse. And at the very bottom, back here, there's some jimping where there's no jimping on the Eclipse. So there's jimping on the XM18, no jimping on the Eclipse. Doesn't bother me at all. So in these knives, they come always tip up. I'm not really sure why they put it the clip that way, but I'll be reversing it. That's the nice thing about Hinderers is there's a lot of options to the way to carry this, and to a lot of accessories you can buy with this knife. So this is a frame lock design, and it has a steel lock bar insert. The action on these are really, really good. I'm not sure what version this is. I think it might be a version 3, but correct me if I'm wrong. I know my viewers are very knowledgeable, and they're not afraid to correct me, and I'm not afraid of being corrected. But I I'm filming this. I just got this knife in. I wanted to open it up and change the scale and use it, and didn't want to spend any time. Yeah, so this knife is a tri-way pivot knife, and it comes installed with ball bearings, but it also has two other methods, two other pivot designs. So you have the ball bearings, or you can have phosphor bronze washers, or you can have these vinyl pieces. And then the steel is used also when you take out the ball bearing pivots. It's thicker, so in order to make these phosphor bronze washers fit, you would use these steel washers in there as well to make it as thick. Now these knives come apart much easier than an XM18. The XM18, when you pull one side out, I think the other side kind of falls out, and you have to be very careful when you take these apart. You like put tape on one side so that these spacers don't come flying out or falling out, and it's more difficult to line up. But with this, they're both screwed into to each side, so you can take one side out without taking the other side out. This knife looks perfectly centered, and let's do a little paper cut here. Oh, nice. So this definitely comes in sharp. Normally, a lot of blade designs on Hinderers are thick, so they're not quite as slicey. This is actually very slicey, so that's definitely an advantage to it. And yeah, you can see how thick it is all the way to the tip. And you know what? The tip is not bad. I don't think I would hesitate to use this as a harder use thing. I prefer, really, quite honestly, the tip of this one the best. It's just the thickest. This blade design is not the easiest to sharpen because it's slanted on both ends here. Like this line here is the highest point in the blade, and then it thins out. So if you use a tool that clamps onto this, it's just a little bit harder. This one has a nice flat surface, so I think this would be easier to use a sharpening tool. A lot of people think that this is a proprietary design here, but it's not. You can use a spanner tool to take this knife apart, and so you can get a spanner bit set, or you don't need a set, you just need a size 12. So this fits right in here. And I also heard people take like a penny and deface it, take out the center. These tool kits are pretty inexpensive, so you do you. I like having the tool set. What else? So this is a flipper design, but you can actually use the thumb stud. So I like it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this to the right position and change the scales, and we're going to check that out. But so this is probably 8¼ inches. I don't have a measuring tool on me, but I'm pretty sure that it's 8¼ inches long. That's my favorite size knife. I don't know if they consider that a mid-size or a large size knife, but I like this size knife. It's my favorite. This has the double finger choil. And in this particular design, it doesn't bother me at all. I think it works real well. Your fingers fall in the right place. There's no sharp edges. Hinderer does a good job chamfering their knives. It's just a great knife. I love the design of this knife. It holds real well. It carries real well in a pocket. The action on this thing will get really smooth after I play with it for a little bit. They break in really well. So the story behind the Eclipse is there was some shortcomings in the XM18. And Hinderer came and he designed this to basically be a replacement to the XM18. But at the end of the day, he kept both of them. But one of the things he did was he got rid of, the things that we talked about. He got rid of the jimping over here, which people complained about. It's a lot more ergonomic. Now this, XM18 is a perfectly ergonomic knife. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, except I don't like the way this thing, the flipper, kind of encroaches on your finger here. It's got a little sharp tip. I'm not going to say it's painful or anything like that. It's just noticeable, and it kind of tilts in, and it cramps my finger just a little bit. It's a nitpicking complaint, so don't get me wrong. I love the XM18. If there was no such thing as an Eclipse, then the XM18 would be my favorite. Also, they removed the lanyard hole, which I love that the lanyard hole's gone. I don't use a lanyard. The hole doesn't really bother me per se, but this is a much cleaner look. All right. Well, this is just a first impression on this knife. It's really sharp. The tip is decent. The action's, amazing. It's a typical Hinderer action. It's got the tri-way pivot. I think it's like 5 ounces. I don't have a scale on me. I was gonna move. Like I said, my life was upside down there for a little bit. So I'm in flux. I have things in boxes. I was gonna move, and then I decided to stay. So long story short, I don't have my scale out there, but I believe this is about 5 ounces. It's your typical, Hinderer weight. It's not a light knife. It's not a small knife. It's just a typical Hinderer knife. It's a great, great knife. This is one of my favorite designs. Let's line them up here. What do we got? So we got that. I think this is the only knife that I own 3 of. So that should tell you something. Well, I guess, you know what? I mean, this is an automatic XM18. So if you count this as an XM18, then I own 3 XM18s too. But I don't really like the automatic. It's for another review. I haven't done a review on that one. All right. Well, I'm excited to get this knife in. I am going to now film a scale change on that. So go ahead and check the channel for that if you're interested in how to change the scale on an XM18. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. There'll be more videos coming out. I appreciate y'all, and see you again. Bye.